All right, this is how we do these guys. So start with these ones. If you remember y equals m, let's change the colors. Remember y equals m x plus b. M is the slope, rise over run. B is the y-intercept. Where it crosses the y-axis. So this one is in y equals mx plus b form. Obviously, we have these symbols and not equal signs, but we're going to treat it as an equal sign and we'll deal with this at the very end. That's the shading part, okay? So my m here is -2, and the rise over run would be -2/1. My y-intercept is -2. That is my b. We keep the sign, and the number in front of the x is the slope. So the first thing I do, remember, the b is where it crosses the y-axis. So where it crosses the y-axis is at -2. So I mark that point at -2. The next part comes the slope. The slope is -2, which means rise -2, run 1, or +1. So I'm going to go down 2, because that's -2, and I'm going to go right 1. Boom. I'm going to go down 2, right 1. Now, if I want to go left, I have to do the opposite. Treat it as +2 over -1, because that's still equal to -2. So I'll go up 2, left 1, right? Makes sense, hopefully. Let me just draw a line. Now, it's a solid line if it has this sign underneath, which is, this is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So that will be a solid line. Let me write that better. Solid line. And then if it's an open guy, just like one of these guys, greater than or less than, this will be a dotted line. Now, the last thing we need to deal with is the shaded part, this part, last step. Let's do green. Last step. What I choose is a point that is not on the line. It is very important you choose a point not on the line. Since this line does not go through 0, 0, I'm going to choose 0, 0. What I do with that is I plug this, my x and y, into the equation and see if it's true. So I'll do it down here. First, let's move this stuff. Here. So we have y is greater than or equal to -2x minus 2. I choose 0, 0. I'm choosing 0, 0 again. This is my x point. This is my y point. So my y point gets substituted with a 0. My x point gets substituted with a 0. Then I just have to determine if this statement is true. Is 0 greater than or equal to -2? Yes, this is true. And that means I shade in that direction. That is it. That's the end of the problem. Done. Do the next one. All right. We're in y equals mx plus b. My m in this situation is, there's no number in front, we always imply there is a 1, which means rise over run, it is 1 over 1. My b, again, is -2. So again, I start at the point where it crosses the y-axis at -2. At this point, I'm going to go rise over run to find the next point. Oh, terrible, terrible point. Let me try that again. I'm going to go up 1, right 1, +1 over 1. up one, right one. Now, continue line, down one, left one would be -1/1, which is +1, right? Negative divided by a negative is a positive number. Also, it makes sense because it continues the line. The important thing here is I have a dotted or solid line. Well, if you look, I have one of these signs with no line underneath, so I have a solid line. It's gonna be hard to draw straight. I mean, dotted line, sorry. Now I'm going to choose my points. Now, the point that you really want to choose most of the time is 0, 0, as long as the line does not go through that point. It is very important. That's the most important thing. If the line goes through that point, it's just that point. It doesn't work for the test because it'll either always work or it'll never work because it's on the line. So we have to choose 0, 0 here because it doesn't go through the point. So it's just the easiest one to choose because you just plug in 0. Well, let's plug in the graph. Equation first. 0 is less than 0 minus 2. 0 is less than -2. Is 0 less than -2? No, that is false. 0 is not less than -2. 0 is greater than -2. So I shade in the opposite direction because that statement is false. And that is it.